thank you so much for joining us. Before we kind of jump into questions and then kind of talk about mining, can you just take a minute, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, what you do?
Thanks for the invite. It's great to be here. My name's Johnny. I work for PEG, and I'm based out of South Africa. And I look at the mining environment and other applications within the African continent.
Awesome. And so, jumping right in with mining, what is one of the biggest challenges you've seen in the mining industry?
We see quite a lot of challenges, but most of them are related to the conditions, and that then relates to safety. The conditions in open pit mining and underground mining have always got wet conditions. There's always dust, there's product. So those are the challenges that we face in everyday mining environments.
And why is that a problem? Like, is it a problem for the people, for the products, like everything?
I think it's a culmination of everything. You have a problem because of dealing with those conditions as a person, dealing with the conditions while you're using a tool, and actually performing a job under those conditions as well.
Yeah, and what's been happening, let's say, with the tools, for example, in that area? What happens to that and that exposure to that environment over time?
Okay, if you're looking at a open pit environment, there's always water, there's always dust. We've seen that battery tools or electrical source tooling also gets affected by those conditions. So when we see those conditions, we tend to lean towards going in another power source, maybe pneumatic. So those are the ways in which we mitigate those factors.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine, especially a wet environment and batteries don't like to mix very well.
They don't go well together,
So, for both the people in that industry who are working in the mine and the products themselves, obviously, if they stick with that, let's say they stick with batteries and everything, what happens over the long term of that?
Well, over the long term, tool longevity is a big problem then. But if the tools are looked after and they're used in a more controlled environment, then I think we'd be on a great path. But we have to realize that the conditions do change, and we have to work with the circumstances that we're dealing with.
Do you see a lot of, in that industry, before you come in with a new suggestion and everything, do you see a lot of sort of outdated methods being used just to try to prevent, let's say, tools breaking down, things like that?
Oh, for sure. You see the guys jumping on strong bars and flogging and things like that. And, it's just, if you have a more controlled method of tightening something with a perfect measure of unit, then it just makes more sense that the tools will last longer and your equipment as well.
And has there been any sort of regulation changes and everything in mining, or even in your area in South Africa as well?
Well, in Africa, a lot of the large mining houses are mostly westernized. There's very little local owned mining houses. And those regimes are, the safety regimes that you have in these mining houses are very strict with regards to health and safety. There's always risk assessments, there's always visual coaching being done. And that just makes it a little bit more safer to work in, and makes you aware of the surroundings around you.
Do you see companies actually following these standards? Are they typically towing the line of that?
There are some that really take it overboard, but there are some that just play it by the book, and you do get the odd one or two which will be a little bit more slacker, but usually it's played by the book, and then you're on the right path.
So what in your opinion is, just looking at the overall picture of everything that you've been dealing with there, what does that ideal solution look like?
Well, the ideal solution is to have something that can save you as a person. It won't cause you harm, and then also have the longevity to keep you going for that time period. And that's why I prefer to look at the conditions first before doing a recommendation on a mining site.
And have you seen things change in terms of how they respond to things, like sort of the new technology, the new automations, digitalization, and all that coming out? Have you seen sort of a appreciation and adherence to that?
Oh, yes. No, definitely. I mean, if we just look at some of the products that we have with regards to data capturing and that type of stuff in a controlled environment on a mine, it's first prize.
Wow. And what was that, or over time, especially dealing with these different mines, what has that change been like for them? I mean, were they completely blown away? Especially when you go, I would imagine, from that literal manual of using a wrench and a hammer or jumping on, like you say. I would imagine that it kind of opens their eyes to a whole new world when they're like, not only is there a different way of doing it, but there's a vastly superior way of doing that. And now with, especially again, like going into that, like the new tech, with digitalization part of that, have you seen that response been just kind of where their minds are blown when they see this first?
Oh, true. I mean, if you see a guy using a strongbow or a flogging spanner, using some of the product enhancements that we do have, it's just mind-boggling the way in which they look at it and accept it. There's no more pinch points. You've got all the data capturing capabilities. And then also the tools are just living a lot longer. When you don't have those forces exerting on the tool that you don't actually want in the previous time, what you have now is far superior to what we had decades ago.
Yeah, and with the, as far as like the best practices, especially in mining, for somebody who is kind of, we'll say, I don't want to say stuck in their old ways, but for someone doing it in sort of an outdated way where it is very unsafe, it's not accurate, what is your suggestion to somebody? Like when you first meet somebody and they're like, oh, here's how we're doing it. Let's say it is that they're like, yeah, well, you're watching a guy jump on a wrench. What's your first step in that approach?
Well, it's good to have a track record as to what are the injuries and how are they caused and what are the figures with regards to that. But as soon as a person sees the enhancements that we can provide, the old guard tend to adopt those a lot easier. And it's also good if a seasoned person who's been there and done that, seen it, can actually provide those answers to the old guard, and they accept it then.
So what is now, kind of talking a little bit about ourselves at High Torque, what's our solution for that?
Well, we have various solutions. I mean, if we look at the safety aspects, for instance, on a really bad conditioned mine site where you have a lot of water, a lot of dust, especially on coal mines, the dust gets in everywhere. Our J-guns are a perfect example. We have so many safety factors that go with that, including our safety paddle that we have on the J-gun. We also have a vast array of reaction fixtures, which take away the pinch point. And the dreaded pinch point on a mining site is something that everybody wants to get rid of. So those are that's one aspect in safety. If we look at the data capturing capability, the Vector Pump, or High Torque Connect app, those are some of the things that really enhance the whole way of doing bolting and make it a lot easier to do it than it was previously.
And so, speaking of, I almost want to jump into each of these things. So you mentioned no more pinch points. So if somebody, obviously, they're listening to us, watching this, and in their head they're like, that's not a thing. What do you mean when you say no more pinch points? Like how does that happen?
Pinch points are definitely there. Yeah. If you're using a reaction arm, there's always the potential for a pinch point. If we can take that away or minimize that and mitigate those factors, it's just a plus point, and it's a win-win situation. But there is definitely the chance of pinch points if you are using a reaction arm. If we can get away with using a reaction fixture or even the washer concept, then we do away with the dreaded pinch point.
That's awesome. And talking about digitalization, and data capture, how is that done?
Well, on our Vector pumps and on our battery line of tooling, We have the bolting managers and the Connect app as well. They just make things a lot more easier, and a lot more companies are getting more into the digitalization side of things. And it also becomes easier for remanufacturing plants as well in the mining environment when they have to assemble engines. They need to provide proof that that bolt has been tightened to that load. And it just makes it a lot more easier. There's no more of the old hydraulic type of record keeping. Everything's digitalized, and we've got it.
And I think that's so amazing to think, prior, where you do it with a wrench. It's, asking somebody, it's like, what was that tightened to? Good luck. Good luck figuring that out. And I think it's so amazing, especially with our product line, where it's like almost like a set it and forget it kind of thing. It's just like, oh, what do you need? It's like, well, we're going to put that desired torque in here. And that's what it's going to be. It's I'm sure that first time that happens, they just sit there like, that was possible. And it was that easy. And there's no pinch point. It really is amazing.
And you don't have to use a correction pen to mark where the bolt actually
did it
should
move?
stop.
Right? Yeah, all that. So can you share, and if you have one, many, whatever, like a success story of like where you think the biggest change that occurred within mining?
Well, I was working on a mine in the northern province of Southern Africa. And they had numerous pinch point incidents with their wheel bolting on quite large rigid dump trucks. The Komatsu 930 is quite a large truck with 63-inch tires on them. And we were able to design and manufacture a reaction fixture to work on the J-gun, and the guys were using this. The pinch points went away. The tools lived a lot longer because there was no more reaction arms causing side loading and such. So that was one of the success stories that we had in Africa, but there's numerous others as well.
And when you say that we designed a custom fixture for that this is something, it was a completely custom for them?
Completely custom, due to the fact that the bolts have different bolt center diameters or pitch differences. So the distances have to be exact in order for us to make sure that the reaction is correct, plus then providing the torque as well that is necessary for that application.
Okay. And so let's say somebody hears what we're saying and they go, okay, so there's a better way. And then they're going online and we'll say they're industrial bolting shopping, What's the why high torque? Like, why should they go with us as opposed to somebody else?
Well, I think High Torque has been trying to provide that better sense of bolting, a more safer sense of bolting, and doing it more effectively. We also have the productivity enhancement group of High Torque as well that look at these things. Yeah. And we have a vast array of engineers, of bolting specialists that can actually assist in any bolting challenge that a person has. So every bolting evolution is different. So if we are able to provide a solution, we've probably seen it before and we've probably got it on record already. It's just a matter of reaching out to a high torque person and getting their opinion on how they can deal with the challenge that they have.
And so the productivity enhancement group, can you dive into that a little bit more? What does that mean? And then I think you touched on it a little bit. So does that mean it's almost like, hey, here's a person who has seen a little bit of everything and really understands it? Or is there something more to that?
PEG is basically, it's a group of individuals who specify in certain applications and certain industries and disciplines within all bolting environments. And they have the necessary know-how, and if they don't, they can really get at you at a quick pace. And they've probably seen a couple of these challenges that the people face, and they're able to sort it out and get back to you with a credible solution.
All right, awesome. And one other question is, so somebody who's now kind of starting this journey, they're still doing it the old way. What advice do you give somebody in that situation?
There's a vast array of tooling out there to do any bolting evolution. look at the bolting, look at the application first. Get somebody in that can really understand what you're going through and what challenges you face, and take it from there. High Torque have probably seen every different type of bolting application that there is. So High Torque are the leaders in that field. And get in touch with the local High Torque rep and really, ask him, what can I do in this? Is there something that I can do that's safer? Is there something I can do that makes it a lot easier for me to do? Because that's what we want to do. We want to make bolting a lot easier. We want to make it safer, and we want to make it faster.
Awesome. And for anybody who wants to get started on this, or wants to get a demo, or wants to say, okay, well, what's my first step to there? Is it just head to the website, reach out? What's the best way?
Well, I think there is various ways to do that. The social media platforms are there, the internet, the websites, and even 10 to 1, there is a High Torque rep in your area somewhere close by, and just reach out to them.
Awesome. That's really, honestly, all the questions I had. I do really appreciate you joining us, though.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.